Beyond that, more generally, what is the role that you think groups like that play, the citizen roles or public interest organizations, and the value that they bring in a very general way to, to the licensing process or to, to issues surrounding nuclear plants generally?
This is America. I think one of the things that makes our country great is that you have a freedom of expression, and that groups like this. If we had those types of groups in the Soviet Union, maybe Chernobyl wouldn't have happened. So there's certainly no room to say that there isn't room for dissension and groups that will keep regulators' feet to the fire. And I don't mean to be dismissive of Pilgrim Watch, but truthfully, Mrs. Lambert has no real credentials to really comment on many of the things that she comments on as an expert, and many of the things she says are just, quite frankly, not accurate. And having dealt with this for 20 years, I really believe in my heart of hearts that her aim is to make us spend money. Make it too expensive to run these plants.
I guess my question
of organizations that share information and
my question more would be who among the citizens within the affected radius of Pilgrim would be qualified to question you guys?
On various.
Well, I think it's important. They don't have a lot of experts necessarily around Logan Airport that are experts on its transportation security or even flight safety. We have a government that oversees that Congress has appointed real experts to oversee those. And in the absence of evidence to the contrary, at least when I fly, I trust those people. That they are inspecting the planes, that they're doing the security checks that have to be done, and that my flight to wherever it is I'm going is going to be safe. There is a duly appointed regulatory group, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, that Congress has assigned authority and responsibility to oversee these plants. And it is replete with experts, sometimes of the most minute, mundane little area, who oversee that.
There are also about a half a dozen citizen groups in East Boston, Winthrop, and Nahant who have had a lot of impact on runway construction there, and on flight plans. So, I mean, to say that appointed authorities that with congressional backing are the ones to do the regulation, I'm not sure they're the ones that are affected at its base.
Well, I think we're talking at this point about
different.
Small groups having influence in the way our country works. But I guess what Jack is saying is that there are experts who are not financially affected by our success or failure that are at the plant. 2 resident inspectors there every single day whose only job is to protect the public health and safety and to make sure that Entergy is performing the maintenance on the plant that it should, is not violating any of our technical specifications, is maintaining the plant in good order, and is operating safely. That's their only job. And then they bring in teams of inspectors that will inspect various systems. So Entergy is not on its own self-regulating ourselves. We have lots of folks that'll come to look at us. And to take the NRC aside, probably another industry group called IMPO, Institute for Nuclear Power Operation, holds regular inspections of the plant. And they were formed after 3 Mile Island, and as a result of 3 Mile Island. And they hold your feet to the fire. They have very rigorous tests and inspections they make, and they rate you, they grade you. We also, Entergy has, because we have 12 nuclear power plants, we have fleet assessments. And they can be worse than all of them, because these are industry experts from other plants, not just Entergy plants, that will come in and take a certain department and they will hold a 2-week assessment and give you a report. And on an AFI, you know, you need area for improvement. So there's lots of folks looking over our shoulder at all times. When it comes to security, we regularly invite state police, FBI, Coast Guard. We have the Secretary of Public Safety, our local police. Boston and Edison was paying $15 million a year to the town of Plymouth.
And we thank you for it.
Yeah, I know, and I live there too, so. And what they did was they took the FERC Form 1 and they took the capital costs and the cost of any capital additions, and they just kept adding up, and that became what the property tax was based on. So although the plant cost $223 million to build, by 1999, it was at $700 million on the books. And so that's what they were paying taxes on. Now Entergy comes in and buys the plant for $80 million. And so all of a sudden, there's a real problem. And Senator Murray realized that, and she made legislation that forced Boston Edison to pay payments to the town of Plymouth. Well, they're still paying it, but it's declined now to $1 million a year. But they started out paying $15 million a year, and then it gradually went down to 14, 13, eventually down to 8, and then in 2007 it dropped to $1 million.
You mean N-Star was still paying?
Well, yeah, Boston Edison changed to N-Star, yeah, that's correct. And thanks for the correction. And so it was kind of convoluted that way, and then we ended up.
That wasn't a responsibility that Entergy had to pick up, right?
No.
That was independent of.
Right.
No, and it was something that was part of the deregulation law, and it was also something that was done to, you know, sort of allow the town of Plymouth to wean itself off this sort of boondoggle. At one time, we were paying 40% of the taxes in the town of Plymouth. So they weren't prepared to take that kind of tax increase. So, you know, that was done specially by the state. But since then, we've renegotiated. We're by far the largest taxpayer in the town of Plymouth. And we're not up to 40% anymore, but we're certainly paying, you know, by any stretch, our fair share of the property taxes there.